So I have already finished putting all the popsicle sticks around the can, which I have covered with paper. And then I put two strips of um, um, board from the folder, and it's going to look like a metal strap once painted. So now I'm going to put some glass beads. I have glass beads here. The glass beads, once um, the project is painted, they will look like nails hammered onto this black strip. So what I did a while ago is I got a pen and I marked the spots where I'm going to put the glue. So I'm going to put the glue now and start, this glue, uh, sometimes when you don't use it for some time, it hardens. So, uh, so I'm going to put some glue here. Okay, now, because the beads are so small and they're difficult to pick up using your fingers, a trick I learned online is to use um, cotton bud, cotton buds. So you get one piece of cotton bud, and then you moisten the tip with water. So I have here a small basin of water, okay, and then you just pick up a bead on the part that's curved. Okay, so there it is. The bead is there. So I'm going to just put it there. So I put them alternately, not on every not on every spot, okay? Not on every popsicle stick. I'm going to put them alternately. Okay. Now after this, I'm going to show you, because I'm going to decorate this with grapes, grapevines, grape leaves, and the fruit, some bunches of grapes. I don't know yet how many bunches I'm going to make. As I said, usually I decide while I'm working on it, while the work is in progress, I decide what to do. Some people, what they do is they, uh, what do you call this, draw the designs. Okay? You can do that too. It's your preference. Okay, do something that works the the best for you. Okay? So there. So I have applied already the beads. Now I'm going to make sure they are aligned. Okay, I missed one. Okay. So now I have the glass beads. Oops, there's one more. Okay. Okay, so there. Okay, I'm going to check to make sure they are, located at the right spot, in the middle, somewhere in the middle of the popsicle stick. So before they dry up, they have been checked. Okay, move here, move you a bit here, a bit here. Okay, so I have the glass beads on top. I'm going to do the same for the bottom part. So this is going to look like a barrel, wine barrel. Usually when people go to wineries, you can see the wines being, what do you call that? They let they are trying to age the wine or whatever liquor it is, because they say aged wine tastes better. The next part is exciting. It's a new technique that you have not seen me show. I haven't shown in my other videos, I guess, in decorating cans. So you would love the next part. So there. So as I said, once painted, they will look like nails, silver nails, against the black background. Okay. So the popsicle sticks, once I have finished decorating them, the popsicle sticks would be brown. This part here that I'm working on, the folder strips, would be black. The nails would be silver. Of course, the leaves of the grapevine, of course, they would be green. And as I have been doing before, to give them an antique look, I'll be using some bronze or copper or silver or gold or pearl green to make the project look antique. Okay. So there. Okay. Let me move the camera closer so you can see. You know, sometimes when I'm engrossed at doing something, I usually forget to look at the camera and how high or how low it is. So there. Okay, so there you have it. Your barrel, your soon-to-be wine barrel with some nails. So I'm going to return the extra glass beads. If you haven't subscribed yet to my YouTube channel, please do. There are a lot. Before, I used to make slideshows, but when a former colleague requested that I make videos for her students, I started making videos. Okay, next, I'm going to decorate this with grapevines, you know, like vines and some leaves. Last night, I went to Google and I looked up for patterns for leaves. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the leaves, okay, where I want them to be, um, as a pattern. Okay. And then later you'll see, once I put the epoxy, I'm going to add details to the leaves, because the leaves of grapevines, they have lots of serrations, you know, the jagged edges, like the petals of a rose. They have jagged, zigzag edges, what we call serrations. Okay, so I drew. So I'm going to, I made, you know, different sizes. So I'm going to put them in spots where I want them to be. I made three sizes, so it's up to you what size you want. Okay. And then next, I'm going to show you how to make the leaves, which is fun. I learned making this, using epoxy for the leaves and the berries. Way back 1990s, early 1990s, our family got involved in export business. We would decorate baskets with leaves, berries, vines, flowers, something like that. And they would be exported abroad. Okay? Europe, usually the markets are Europe and the United States. Like we would have projects or handicrafts for the Easter. Usually they are rabbits in Easter baskets that have pastel colors. Okay. So, mhm. So where else? Okay. Okay. And for Christmas, usually we had the reds and the greens, like red baskets with green vines and red berries. And then sometimes for some markets like in the Europe, they want the colors that are antique looking, like the greenish gray or the burgundy. They like those colors. Europeans like those shades. Okay, let's see the directions. I'm checking for the direction of the leaves so that, I have, where is that? Okay, okay, so let's have a small, another leaf here. Okay, I'll decide later on if I'm going to add some leaves. So I'm going to put aside some of the materials I have. Now let's go to making the vines. For the vines, as I said, I learned this from years back. I'm going to use epoxy. Maybe you have seen epoxy. Um, there's a brand that we have been using for a long time. This one. You can buy this like in the hardware store together. A and B, you mix them equal parts. But also you need this powder. We call it calcimine. Calcimine. You check Google, calcimine powder. When we were doing handicrafts, the workers there called it calcimine, calso. But when I checked Google, it's actually calcimine. Now, why do we use calcimine? Because if you use epoxy with your bare hands, they would 100% really stick. It's very sticky and it's difficult to handle, to use the epoxy. So what you do is you get some calcimine. So I have here my board, cardboard. You can use newspaper or plastic. You just get some calcimine there. And then using a stick, you get equal parts of A and B. So this is A. It's a bit darker. When you mix them, okay, they're very sticky here. Look, okay, they're very sticky. Now, if you're going to take them off from the stick, you have some powder in your fingers. there would still be some calcimine, no, epoxy sticking. That's going to stick to your fingers, but not that much. Compared to when you don't have calcimine, wow, it would be, so difficult from the start. The epoxy would stick to your fingers. Now, with the calcimine, that would greatly reduce the amount of epoxy sticking to your fingers, and later on, because it's just a small amount, it's easier to remove by washing them under a faucet. Okay, so you have already A. Now I'm going to put B. So one of this is the hardener. I think it's the B is the hardener. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the B when mixed with A would cause the epoxy to harden. Okay, so I have placed approximately equal amounts of epoxy A and epoxy B. So what do you do now is you mix them together using your hands. We need them, need, K-N-E-A-D. In Filipino, we say masa. Mamasahin natin. So, hope you can see this. Okay, so there, you just put epoxy, your both of your fingers that you're going to use. Okay, so you mix them, and the color will change later on. A while ago, one is whitish or like beige, the other is pinkish, pinkish gray. So now you just mix them together. See, it doesn't stick too much. Okay. Now before, I have shown you how to make vines using tissue paper. Okay, in one of the projects I have made. Oops, sorry for that. Uh, in one of the projects I have made, I have showed you how to make paper twine. Okay, now paper twine, once it's hardened, the glue has hardened, it's quite difficult to shape. Now with the epoxy, it's much easier. Okay, so let's make the leaves first, because the grapes would be easier. You know, for the grapes, uh, for the grapes, you just get a small amount, make a circle, and then flatten it on the surface, and then you have some grapes. Now the leaves are a bit more challenging. Now that's why I drew them. So I'm going to get some, and I'm going to apply the epoxy inside the lines that I drew. Okay, let's get more. Let's get some more. I'm going to put epoxy inside the lines. So every now and then, use your fingers. Now, how thick should I put? Uh, some people like putting too much epoxy. I discourage that, because um, when it's too lumpy, when you let it stand to dry, the tendency is, because of the weight of the epoxy, it tends to sag, so it won't appear that nice. So if there's extra, you just remove the extra. Okay, okay, so here I'm going to put, okay, I have shapen the epoxy inside the drawing. Okay, okay, so now I have the leaf shape. You know, you want, if you want to smoothen, you get some epoxy and calcimine, and just rub it on the surface. Rub the surface so that it will be flat a bit. You can use a toothpick to to check the the shape if you want to alter the shape. Okay. Okay. So here. Okay, there we go. Now, now that we have a leaf, what I'm going to do now is to, as I said, um, grape leaves are serrated. When you say serrated, you know, like a saw, it has serrations, the jagged. Okay, so you can use a toothpick to make the veins. Remember, leaves have veins, right? So that the again, so that the epoxy won't stick on the stick, you let it roll on the calcimine and just move your way there. Okay, so you can make some lines. Apply little pressure if you want the lines to be thinner. Okay, there. Uh-huh. Okay, so you apply lines, and if you check Google, grapevines have lots of veins. Now I'm going to use a dental tool my mom, my late mom, used to use. Again, I dabbed it on some epoxy. So I'm going to use this to add veins. Now this is easier to use sometimes than the toothpick. Okay, so there. I have applied some veins to make the leaves more realistic. Because if it's just plain epoxy without the veins, you know, it's nicer if you have details. You add details. So again, if you don't have this tool is optional. You can use a toothpick, especially the toothpick that is round. I prefer the round toothpick. It so happened I don't have a round toothpicks now. And the other day when we ate out, the toothpick at the restaurant was flat, like the ones I'm using now. I have a box of those already. Okay, so there you have one leaf. Okay, now you do the same process with the others. Now, let me tell you something. Epoxy, unlike paint or glue, the paints and the glues, you put them under the sun to dry. For epoxy, you don't. Because if you put them under the sun and it's too hot, the epoxy would sort of melt and would become saggy, and they would droop. Okay, so let's make another leaf. So sometimes you can make it into a ball. Mm-hmm. And that's usually, I saw that some grapevine leaves, they are like three parts. Okay, so I'm going to make a ball and then, yeah, roll on one tip so that it would be pointed. So I'm going to use one here. Okay, and apply pressure. Okay, that's better. And then use the excess on the other part. If you want it to be bulgier, you can, but as I said, the more volume it has, it tends to, it would tend to sag. Okay, so that's the first teardrop epoxy I placed, okay, on one part. Now I'm going to use the bigger one here in the middle. Okay, put some pressure. So that's the reason why, sometimes you can alter the shape of the leaf in the process. You might want the tip to curl up or curl down. It depends on you, so that they won't look the same, you know, like following a certain pattern only. Okay. So here's another leaf and another one here. Okay, so now look at the tip of the leaf. I used my fingers. You can press to make it pointed. Okay, I'm going to apply calcimine again. Okay, so I'm putting pressure on the tips to make them more pointed. I think it looks better this way. Okay. Okay. I'm going to do the same with the first leaf. Okay, I'm going to apply pressure to the tips so that they would be more pointed, because at this point the epoxy here hasn't hardened yet. Okay. Another tip, what you can do is to make a leaf separate on a board. Make sure you put it somewhere. Let's say the board, you apply calcimine and then you make a leaf here. Once it's dried, you can attach it so that it's like 3D, something lifted. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to apply lines using popsicle stick. No, toothpick. Because it's something that you make sure you apply some calcimine first. Okay. And you just apply pressure and pressure. Okay, let's say you have applied too much pressure and you want to erase that. Okay, you just get some calcimine, rub it again. Okay. Okay. And erase that spot that you want to be repaired. Okay. So look, I'm just using the tip of the popsicle stick. Can you see it? Okay. So I'm applying lines. So this would be nice because once you start painting, you would see the veins. I hope you're enjoying this video because it's something new for some of us. But for some people who have been involved in the expert business, this is not new to them. I remember I had a professor before in graduate school. When I was telling her about the expert business, she said, "Oh, my sister had one, the epoxy and other stuff." "Oh yes," I said. So she's familiar with the process. Okay. Okay. So there, the leaves are nice. Okay. Now, I'm going to make the other leaves later. Now, I'm going to show you how to make the vines. Okay. It's easy. You just get your epoxy. Okay. So, because I've been talking, the epoxy is starting to harden. You make something like this. and you just apply it where you want. Okay, and you add some pressure to make the vines. I am varying the thickness. Some would be thin, some would be thick, because what I'm going to do is later on, I'm going to carve that part, the vine part, okay? And I can place a vine going down, okay? Something like that. Okay? So it depends on you. You can make what you call it? It's like something that attaches the leaf to the vine, a small stem, something like that. So you get a small amount of epoxy, connect the leaf to the vine. There. So now we have the leaf connected to the vine. Okay. Now the nice thing about epoxy, as I was saying, is you can also make tendrils. You know what tendrils are? Tendrils, when you look at pictures of grapes, tendrils are those curly things that plants use to attach themselves to wires or to trellises. So you just make something thinner, okay? And then you make your tendrils. They would be curly. Okay, I'm going to make it much thinner. Okay. After this, I'm going to show you how to make the grapes. And then I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to continue uh, with it, uh, with the video, with decorating. Okay, so I placed. Okay, so there's a tendril. I intentionally placed it on the bar, you know, to add some, something like art. So that's a tendril. Uh, if, okay, some epoxy got stuck inside. Okay. Now to shape um, your vine, use the same thing. You just carve it. You know, vines have, like twisted looks, right? They look twisted. So you just apply pressure to make the vines look twisted. Some vines have holes. So now I'm applying more pressure, something okay. Where's my other tool? Okay. Okay. You can alter the shape too. If you don't like the vine to go a certain way, you can change it while it hasn't hardened yet. Okay, there. Okay, so the vines, I made it like that by putting pressure. Okay, you just put pressure. The tendrils I didn't touch. Okay, so some vines have holes, so maybe you would like to make a hole here or a hole underneath. Okay, so to make the vine look old. Now once you have formed it, please don't touch the vine or the epoxy every now and then, because based on experience, the more you touch it, the more it softens, it softens. Okay, sometimes I put pressure to break the curves. Okay, okay. So the tendrils, I just let them be smooth. Okay, now for the grapes, let's make some grapes. This one is easy. You just get epoxy. By the way, how much is this epoxy? Usually you could buy this pair for 100, maybe, or 110. Okay, you just make some small spheres or shapes around epoxy, and you just attach them where? Okay, let's put a branch before everything else. I'm going to make a branch for the grapes. Okay, the grapes. So why did I choose grapes? First, wine is made out of grapes, right? Second, as I was telling you before, I like working with things that are related to nature. And when my mom was pregnant, she used to eat grapes. Uh, in Filipino, we say, pinaglihi. Pinaglihi ako. Mom's appetite that time was grapes, grapes, grapes. Okay? So I'm going to make the round things and then press them a little to form the grapes. The size of the grapes depends on you. Maybe you want the upper part a little bigger and those in the lower a little bit smaller. So press them a bit. Okay. Grapes is one of my favorite fruits. Okay, if they're too big, you just uh, remove some of the epoxy so that you can make the other shapes. You know, for sometimes some grapes have leaves inserted between them or tendrils coming out. So it's up to you. Okay. I'm going to add some tendrils later with the grapes. Okay. So it's best to apply or to make the grapes when the epoxy hasn't hardened yet, because when it's a little moist, it would easily attach to the surface. Okay. So through practice, you're going to get used to this. Some people I have seen before when we were in the expert business, some of our workers did roses. Some did Easter bunnies, Easter eggs. Okay. I didn't get a chance to learn that part. Uh, I have seen them make a rose. Okay. So I'm going to roll it very well, because if you don't, there might be some folds, and you don't want those folds to be seen. Okay. Now let's say while drying, one of the grapes fell off. You apply glue. You just use glue and you're good to go. Okay. Wine is a symbol for, in Greek mythology, they have, you know, Greeks have lots of myths. They have Pan. Pan is the god of uh, revelry and drunkenness. Wine is good for the health in small amounts. I have read an article before, but it's a different kind of wine, something that is less alcoholic. Okay? But for you, young kids, don't drink without, you know, don't drink wine yet. Okay. Oh, I like the grapes now. Grapes are naturally very small, right? But because I want the design to be clearly seen, I'm making them a little bit bigger. Okay. Okay. See that? So I have the grapes. Now, if I would like to have a tendril, a green tendril coming out from one of the sides of the grapes, I can add. Okay. Just add tendrils where you want them to be placed. Okay. That's why epoxy is much better than paper twine because you can shape things. Okay. Okay. So now you can estimate like, oh, if I use this amount of epoxy, the grape would look big. I want it smaller. Okay, so you adjust. Okay. You learn through practice. Let's say you don't want grapes, you want just berries. It's the same. You make a vine, you add some leaves. Okay, I think one more berry. By rubbing it here, you are removing the excess calcomine from the epoxy, making the epoxy moist and much stickier so that they would adhere to uh, what you're doing. Okay, so there it is. Now, before I pause the video, because once I pause the video, I'll be working on the other leaves and be adding other, uh, what do you call this, other vines and grapes. Let's say you don't want a grapevine. Uh, I'm going to show you. I hope you could see this. Okay, you get a small amount of epoxy. Okay, maybe you could see sometimes, if you don't mix well, you would have a fold like that. Okay, you don't like that fold. Okay, so what you do is you roll it with your finger, roll it, roll it on your finger. Okay, and then you press it, make it spindle shape by rubbing one part. Okay, now I'm going to make the process here so you can see it, because if I place it here on the board, you may not see it. Press it a bit. Okay, you can see now. Apply some pressure to the leaf. Okay, I think it's better when it's on the surface because we used to do that before. Okay, I'll just show it to you. Using both fingers, I apply pressure on one side, okay, and another pressure here. Now, look at what happened now. Okay, I pressed one side, both fingers here, and another here. So now that's the shape. Okay, see that? And then, so this is another kind of leaf. I learned this while doing the export business with my family before. Okay, so here's my toothpick. You apply pressure. Okay, some pressure if you want. So you could have the veins just light. Okay. There. There it is. By applying pressure towards the tip, you can make the edge of the tip of the leaf more pointed. Okay, like that. And here, apply pressure. Okay, so this is the leaf we usually use for Christmas decors. You can put berries, you know, like in the poinsettias. Okay, the poinsettias, like that. Now, grape leaves, the leaves of grapes, the edges are not smooth. Okay, they are serrated too. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply pressure to the edges of the leaves to give them some points, serrations. Okay, okay, this uh, leaf now is beginning to harden. Ouch. So there it is. I'm adding on the edges, okay? Okay, look. Okay, I'm going to apply pressure so that it would look like the edge of the saw. There. Hope you see that. That's how you add designs. So guys, you know, sometimes I say, teacher, you know, it's too mabusisi. Yes, I like doing stuff that is meticulous, because when you give them to people, they would say, wow, it's a labor of love. And if you make a project like this and submit this to your teacher, and your teacher says, wow, you really painstakingly shaped the leaves so that they won't look ordinary leaves, but, you know, leaves that are jagged. Okay. So that's what I'm going to do later with the other leaves. Adding the edges to make the edges like that of a saw. Okay. Put some more calcimine. Okay. Okay, so now the leaf looks better because of the serrations. Now I'm going to do the same with the others. Okay, I'm going to end this video now because it's already 48 minutes long. So when I return, I have finished and we're going to paint. Bye.